Good afternoon and welcome to Made Live TV, the editor's pick with me, Phil Stanley from TWP Manufacturing. I have the pleasure of choosing 3 standout articles published in the Made platform on topics of investment and success in business. The editor's pick is a new segment introduced by the Made Group that will go live fortnightly across the social channels. This week I am the editor, but next 2 weeks there'll be somebody else who'll be the editor for the Made Group membership every time. So my 3 articles that I've chosen are close to me in a way. First of all, almost I have Tony from Alicast, I have Dan from EGL Vaughan, and Chris Needham from MetroCab. So Tony, I'll start with you if I may, because I know we've got a common connection, because obviously I've brought some tooling back and you guys are doing the castings for me. So, but also I know that you've invested heavily in a load of machines. In the article it mentions that Alicast has invested in new state-of-the-art 5-axis milling machines in order to increase your capacity and cope with demands of the OEM tiers. What products have you seen grow with that, and what made you invest heavily in a 5-axis?
Well, it's a very important area for us to sort of develop our technology here at Alicast. For everybody around the table today, if you know Alicast, we're an aluminium die casting business. I'm chairman of the company. We've got the 4 main processes here at Alicast for casting aluminium, which is sand, gravity, low pressure and high pressure. So that's unique in the UK. What we've done, Phil, is to add onto that facility a machining facility as well. And what that means is that we're able to supply parts into the OEMs on a single source basis. So parts are fully machined, they're ready for trackside delivery for assembly. Now, what we did was to ensure that we had capacity to make these parts. And I think everybody around the table and those listening today will know that we're in really a lightweighting revolution with the electric vehicle business that's beginning to build up now. What that means is that these vehicles have a heavy battery, and the designers and engineers at the car companies want to lightweight those vehicles to ensure that they get the energy efficiency and the range they need from EV vehicles. And that's why we invested in this type of equipment. CNC, they're Quasar CNC 5-axis machines. We're using ETG from Wellingborough to help us, capacitize the business. And we've invested something like £2.5 million if you add up all the property, training, machines, etc. in these last 3 years.
That's brilliant, Tony. And of course, 5-axis gives you multiple machining surfaces without having to take anything off, doesn't it? So you're able to finish the job on one setup rather than multiples as well.
That's a key point you make there, Phil. What we do is we chose that route exactly for what you said. Essentially, what that means is that you have an OP10, which is your initial cutting. And then an op 20, and basically all the operations, which might be 50 operations, are all carried out within those 2 ops without taking the part off, and it's left on the machine. So frequently a part could be on the machine for maybe an hour, 3/4 of an hour to an hour. In the past, using traditional techniques, you might have been taking that off, storing it, sending it to another machine, and the machines are robust. They're stiff holding the part, so you don't get chatter, and we're very pleased with that investment.
And have you seen that growth over the last 12 months whilst the so-called pandemic's on, with reshoring? And is it promoted, or is it a spread of businesses that have come through now?
We capacitized in the first place because our customer wanted to move into this area, and we made it was a bold decision at the time to invest and buy these basically 6 5-axis machines and the property to house them, get the people in and to train them as well. But that was backed off with, new work orders that we'd achieved. And, we felt it the right thing to do. In the end, you can never guarantee your volumes, but, and I know, obviously we've had this issue these last 12 months where volumes have been slack, but do you know what? We're 200% higher volume than we were back in April, May last year. So, we're 3 times the amount of volume that we were then. But of course, that was coming from a very low level, as a lot of people were in the business.
Yeah. Okay, fantastic. And, my other question to you really is, where do you think you'll be investing next? Are you seeing a lot of reshoring back to the UK? Are you seeing customers come for a one-stop shop? And what sort of products will we be doing, really? That's almost 2 questions in one, sorry.
Well, yeah, we are seeing, some movement of castings back to the UK. I mean, yours was one in particular, and you'll know that, you phoned me. I hope we reacted quickly. We were down to see you within a week or 2. We were getting the tooling. We were looking at modifying it to fit our machines.
Yeah.
We were giving you quotes, and virtually we were up and running within a couple of weeks, really. And that's what I think is the big advantage of having a local supply chain here in the country. I know they talk about Birmingham being the city of 1,000 trades, but so is the Black Country, and it's a fantastic opportunity. Yeah. I think, to develop our businesses if we can work together.
Yeah, I mean, our objective with you is to bring something back locally. You're 2 miles away from us, and you're doing about 8 castings for us, which is fantastic. So that's just brilliant. Incredible growth, fantastic news, Tony. Fantastic for British manufacturing. Thank you.
Everybody, I think, round the table will probably have seen, some of our castings. Now, you might not know, but we made the top and bottom caps for the Olympic torch. Yeah. So, the small firm, relatively small, with 100 people, made castings for the Olympic torch, and they were seen by 7.5 billion people worldwide. So you've all seen one, and it's great to have that sort of publicity from a project like that.
Fantastic. Thanks, Tony. Thanks for your questions and answers, if I can be as honest. My next guest is Dan Coles, from Business Development Manager at EGL Vaughan. Dan, welcome. I suppose my first question to you, Dan, is first and foremost, congratulations on being recognised as SME News Best Precision Manufacturers of the Year. On the same hand, we got Best Presswork and Moulding. So that's brilliant news for you guys, because I know you've gone through a big change. So really from that, you've had a site move, you've achieved this target that's been recognised as best in practice. So tell us a bit more about that, please.
To be honest with you, it's been nice to have been accredited it. It's been quite an interesting year for EGL Vaughan, as we've been taken over by Allied Global Engineering, which is an engineering investment company. So it's allowed us, as you mentioned, to do the site move, which was a big part of why we bettered the workshop. To introduce a more lean layout to what we do. It's allowed us to introduce new programs and processes. It's allowed us to update a lot, because EGL Vaughan up till now had always been still in the same site that it started in the 1990s, and it had just kind of grown into the space and outwards. So through this and other investments in both physical tooling and digital services, it's allowed us to take on new work. It's allowed to deal with new customers. It's allowed to take on new work from original customers. And it's really allowed us to kind of drive the business forward, which has been an interesting year to try and take on that challenge.
Yeah, because I mean, my next bit really is, it says in the article that you've introduced a lot more lean manufacturing processes, but I suppose that's been more so because you've joined forces and merged the businesses together and gone to a new site, haven't you? So I know you've had a lot of upheaval there.
Yeah, it's been a great way to kind of have a clean sheet to start again. So I mean, it's allowed us to introduce the whole idea of the 6 S's that come with lean manufacturing. So we had a great period going from the old site where we went with the whole idea of sort first, and we played the rule of, if you haven't touched it or used it in the last 2 years, then it needs to be being scrapped or sold. And there was just a case where, as you'll probably find in a lot of old manufacturing businesses, where they bought something and then, because they've had space, to just go, we'll put it over there, you never know, we might use it again. Yeah. And then, you completely cluttered up. Yeah. So it's then allowed us, once we got to the new site, to introduce the next 2, which is Set in Order and Shine. So now we've got the idea of having all of our tooling and equipment placed ideally around the workshop. We've got a much leaner flow that comes through the business. So as something goes through the process, It saves a lot of time as it moves around our workshop. And then it's also introduced cleaning schedules. So we're still very much at the beginning of the journey.
Yeah.
But it's an exciting journey to be on, and long may it continue, to be honest with you.
Okay, brilliant. Yeah, I mean, we got best press work and moulding, but I did expect to win the precision engineering as well, because as you know, we've put 11 CNC machines in the last 2 years. But hey, I can't win everything, can I, Dan?
Yeah, they've got to share the welfare, Phil.
But as I say, we moved 11 machines, and I understand your connection there, where you've actually had a chance to put everything laid out in a proper format rather than things just growing in corners and being put there. So I mean, how the staff took on this new performance, the new building, and also the achievement of winning the award, that must be a great success for everybody there, because obviously you've had a lot of moving around as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same with every business. No one ever likes change at first. It's something a little bit strange, especially in kind of our industry, where historically everyone's kind of stayed where they are. I've got guys that work in our business that work there longer than I've been alive. But to be honest with you, I take great pride in saying that they've all really embraced the changes that we've introduced. And then once they I think the realization of when they moved site and when they got to the new site and saw what the plans were, the kind of excitement kick in of, oh, wow, what can we achieve here? And we started to do a lot of action in regards to suggestions on how we can change it as well, which is really, really good, because at the end of the day, although we've worked for the business for a short time and have experience in the industry, we don't have as much experience as these guys as working with EGR Vaughan. So to have that kind of input and have that brought forward was phenomenal to see. And then to have that rewarded with an award at the end wasn't the expectation or the aim, but to have it recognised was, really, really, really proud moment for us.
That's fantastic, mate. Well done. Brilliant success for British manufacturing. And as you said earlier in the conversation, you've got new customers waiting to get in there, which is just a great opportunity to have, and gives you strength to strength. Yeah, brilliant. Thank you. Excellent. Chris, I met you the other day and we got chatting, didn't we? And, you've sort of like grabbed hold of me and says, Phil, I need to come and see you, because it sort of says in the article here, that, as far as you know, there's no one else offering the renting of robots and cells and the training and the experience and the know-how, And I know from my own experience that the upfront investment for me has always been a big step forward to sort of say, well, I can't see how I'm going to get my return. So, by all means, please give us an insight as to how you think, that'll work for everybody, which I think it will.
If you don't mind, I'll go back to a little bit of the background. Metricat have been working in the automotive industry, largely in robotics. We've got guys with over 30 years of experience. And as we all know, the car industry is not in its best level of health at the moment. And certainly as far as investment in new production facilities, that work has dried up at the moment, as well as a lot of our past work came by Europe. Because obviously COVID has not helped the situation anymore, but it was a big issue for us, and the majority of our work dry up. We recognise though that there are lots of smaller companies that are wanting to reshore a lot of work from abroad, but it becomes both a cost and labour preventative problem, because, like you say, Phil, investment is very large for modern automation, particularly with robotics. But there are massive problems with labour issues where people can get trained up, they despair off because they get an extra pound an hour at another company up the road, and then all of that investment in training is gone. Now, we've done some calculations, and our feeling is that if people take the approach of a robot will do multiple amounts of work that an operator couldn't be expected to do in a much shorter space of time. And if you look at the calculations of the cost per part, the actual, in some cases, we expect that the cost will be something like 25% of having an operator doing it. But one of the myths of automation is that it replaces a man working at a bench. It doesn't, because it enables a business to have a greater throughput of product, and using the guys that were doing the more bespoke hands-on work before, that's very specialist, they can be on the desk feeding the new stuff going forwards. Mundane, run-of-the-mill products are the same day in, day out. They're the bread and butter of using a robot.
Yeah.
Aside from the instances which I think will probably feed to all of you guys, is that you can use robots for any multiple things. JLR use them very much for press tending, as do the likes of GKN. For tending of any machines where it's a repetitive motion, loading a part in, taking a part out, a robot's a great tool for that kind of thing. And you can utilize your manpower, which at the end of the day is getting harder and harder to get hold of, or better, more productive, cost effective users. But the take on it is that we will provide it, not, as you say, renting a robot, renting a service where it's supported. I know you've had issues where you've had a robot sale and you just can't get the people to actually technically pick up on it. Our take on it is that you rent a service, you rent us as a company, we come in there, we will, depends on how we form a contract, we can have people permanently on site with you, or you have people on call to be able to come in and assist you whenever there's an issue. But it's more renting a production service rather than renting a robot or a machine. It's a different approach. I don't think, as far as we're aware, that you can go to any of the robot manufacturers. They'll supply you a robot, they'll supply you a machine, but they won't supply you with a production service, which is what we're trying to do.
Training and support and everything else, yeah. Because I read somewhere that the UK is quite behind the Europe and the rest of the world in terms of robots, aren't they? And I think, I had a robot welder, and I think the biggest fear I had was, the biggest fear that people had was thinking that it was going to take over their jobs. But it was more so the fear of using them as well. But I think, that was like 5, 6, 7 years ago. So hopefully that's gone now, And, you're coming to see me on Friday, and, we're going to get together and go through it. And hopefully I might be your first customer on that one. And we can make an article and prove to the world that, robots are the right way to go and do the repetitive jobs and allow people to do things that they need to do,
We've no doubting with that robots are the way to go. I mean, at the end of the day, I'm back in our consulting work, working within sort of the mainstream car manufacturers, is that in the West as a whole, if we don't become more competitive, all work will go to the East. But I think also in the problems we've had with COVID, with shipping, with quality issues, and actually getting stuff out of like China, that we're having to sort of have a second thought on that, whether it is worth going to the East, or how do we square so knock the corners off that square and make it into a circle, into a nice running system. We have to be able to manufacture in a clever way, as opposed to just working in the same way as they do, I believe, in China, working where it's just throw people at a particular problem. That is not the right solution in the West. In the West, we've got a higher cost of living and labour costs. So we have to make sure that labour is working at the optimum level all of the time, which you can do with automation.
Yeah, but I think robots are doing the same as what CNC wire routing did in 1980, and lasers did about 10, 15, 20 years ago. They're becoming more accessible now. They're becoming more affordable as well, aren't they? And people are now looking at that. But also, other products are coming on the market now where you can actually buy a second-hand robot and utilize it and not have the big upfront cost. So, your idea of giving a one-stop package with the training, all the renting and the training and everything else is absolutely fantastic. Yeah, and I think it's a breath of fresh air, if I'm honest with you.
I hope so. I mean, the other thing that we've recognised as an issue is that particularly for very small companies, we've got some people talking to at the moment, and they've had a request to bring some parts back that are currently made in China because their client has got issues with deliveries, for starters. The quality is another issue, but they've been asked if they can bring, I think it's something like 250,000 parts annually back to the UK.
Yeah.
Do that manually, you're looking at an enormous factory of people to be able to do that sort of work. Where with the equivalent robot cell, we can do that we can probably fivefold their productivity, because the other beauty of automation is you can set it up so that an operator, a lower skilled operator, can load parts at the same time as the robot's working on the other side. You turn the machine around, the robot carries on with the other part, the operator unloads and then loads the next product.
It's fantastic, isn't it? Because, we're just about to run our sliding heads on Lights Out next week, ironically, and we, like you're saying, we reshored about 30,000 turn parts back to the UK, and it's looking at the right equipment for the right job, and it's fantastic news to hear everyone's busy. So I think that's all my questions. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you to Tony, Dan, Chris for joining us today on the Editor's Pick. Join us in 2 weeks' time when Karen Tinkler from Made in Yorkshire patrons the Partners Group. Live streams again across the Made Society, social distancing, and latest news from Made in Yorkshire members. So I think the only question I've got, really, if I'm honest, gents, is it coming home or is it not? As a non-football person, that's my question to you all. Do you think it's coming home, or how do you think we're going to go? Huh?
I've got Monday booked off in preparation, so I think you know my answer for this.
According to my son, who's football crazy,
I think I've got half my workforce booked off, but never mind, we'll see. Gents, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much, and really appreciate everything you've done today by joining us. Thank you very much. Cheers. Bye.
Take care, guys.
Thanks a lot.